So these Texans, these Florida men, these people from Mississippi, people from Arizona, we're going to see them turn up a lot more. Well, even Mike from RTD, I was watching his stream, and he said, "Hey man, I'll die for mine." He said there has to be a point where you draw the line in the stand, and he said, "I don't want to speak too much because I'll get too radical." And then he said those words. He said, "Man, hey man, I'll die for mine." So you got a lot of Israelites, and you got a lot of Edomites, Moabites, Ishmaelites, a lot of these different nations that are within this nation or this corporation of America who really value their quote unquote rights. That's why they love America so much, because you have freedom, you have liberty to do certain things which you don't have in these different countries. So they're not really ready to relinquish these things without a fight. Yeah, it's open, but people still willingly wear a mask. Yeah, these people are weirdos. 2nd Ezra chapter 15, verse 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. Right? And that's why these people are out in the fields hunting, all right, going through different military drills. And I'm not talking about governments. I'm talking about former military who are now leading militias, because these people fear that their destruction draweth nigh. That's why people are going to the gun range. That's why people are going to these gun stores left and right, because they feel what's in the air. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. That's right. So that goes into race wars, ideological wars, because you're going to have, even amongst Edomites, like we read in Isaiah the 19th chapter, Mark the 3rd chapter, conservative Edomites fighting liberal and radical Edomites. You're going to have, as we see what's going on with Moab and Judah, that's what they're pushing on mainstream news. Like, okay, that's the new big race war between Moab and Judah, or Moab and Ammon, and Judah and Benjamin and Levi, so-called blacks against so-called Asians. And this is all according to prophecy. Now, are some of those situations orchestrated? I believe so. I believe certain of those people are paid actors or government agents. But at the end of the day, it all fits the Most High's narrative, because people talk about the media narrative and what spin the media and the government wants to put on things, but ultimately it's all about the narrative of the scriptures, because this is what's going to ring true at the end of the day. So if we see things happening and it matches up with scriptures, you say, well, you know what? Hey, that's the spirit. For there shall be sedition among men. What sedition? Conduct or speech inciting rebellion against an established government. And that's what we see. And that's what they're cracking down on with us, even though we are in no way, shape, or form advocating an insurrection against the government. Yet this is exposing the government and really exposing the shadow government, which is talking about you quote unquote elites, you Rothschilds, those of you who are running the show. And then you'll make an appearance every now and then and act like you're just a regular citizen. Like, you look at them Rothschilds, they go on financial news and they act like they're not orchestrating things behind the scenes. But see, Esau hates to be exposed, so what is he doing? He's cracking down on our videos. When I say "our," I'm talking about Israelites. I got this page back after a week of being shut down, but I had to make 2-3 others. All right, they're cracking down on any free speech. And like Lester Holt, that damn terror, I believe he's a terror. His dad's supposed to be from Jamaica, but I believe that dude's an Edomite. But he could just be a Edomite living Benjamite. But anyways, he said that there doesn't need to be fairness. You don't have to hear the other side. So they're cracking down on these Facebook pages, all over YouTube, even Daily Motion. Why? Because they don't want any information to get out there that might spark people to take up arms and go against their ass. Because you do have certain Israelites who are not patient. There's zealots. And speaking of zealots, in particular, you had a branch of the zealots called the Sicarii. And they were all about what? Armed resistance. So you have certain Israelites like that that'll hear this. They'll hear us going into so-called white man's atrocities and the Heavenly Father's judgment. And instead of them waiting, they're going to take matters into their own hands, which there's nothing we can do to control that. All we do is say, okay, this is what's going to happen according to the scriptures. Because I remember Vocab Malone, he made that point. Well, there's certain people who hear this and they get stirred up and, they go and they kill people. Hey, that's on them. All right, we teach that you're supposed to wait upon Yahweh and the Son Yahweh Shah. You're supposed to wait for Yahweh to send Yahweh Shah. All right, we're peaceable men. If at all possible, live peaceably with all men, and that's what we do. All right, we're not inciting any physical violence towards so-called white people. We're just simply telling you what the scriptures prescribe as a result of you enslaving the nation of Israel. Zephaniah 3:8, therefore wait ye upon me, saith Adonai Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey. That's right, so we're under strict commandment not to take matters into our own hands. All we do is go into these scriptures, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. Yet, you are going to have certain people that watch our videos. They're watching Alex Jones. They might watch Rizza Islam. And they say, you know what? We got to get proactive. So they're going to lead what? They're going to lead other seditious men to go against the government physically. For my determination is to gather the nations that I may assemble the kingdoms. And that's exactly what our power is doing. To pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. That's right. And eventually, and this is going to happen sooner or later, the Heavenly Father is going to cause these different nations to shoot missiles on each other. And we're just going to slide into rulership. You're going to be completely decimated. And we're just going to slide in. And those of you that remain, you're going to be taken and forcibly put into slavery. So we don't have to do anything but just wait and prophesy. And that's it. Yet, there's people who aren't in that spirit. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings, nor princes. Oh, and another thing, these different elected officials, they're going to start getting put to death. I mean, I'm talking about in droves. Now, we see what happened with Governor Whitmer, Governor Northam, and the plot to kidnap them and hold them on trial for treason, which we know that the penalty for treason is death. But we're going to see a lot more of that. And then this is a violent country. We saw what happened yesterday. It was yesterday morning in Orange, California. That's in Orange County, about 30 minutes or so south of LA. There was a mass shooting. I believe it was some Edomites. In which some of these things are false flag terrorist attacks, and they're being used to curtail the Second Amendment right, which is the right to bear arms, and others are just sincere. People just losing it. So these people, they got guns and they have a very unstable mind. That's a dangerous combination. And they have access to information. They have access to truth. Or they're going on, they're watching. Hey, best believe, even people who don't acknowledge themselves to be Israelites, they watch these videos. I remember some years ago, even KKK members, they were sharing on Stormfront, which has a so-called white supremacist website. It got shut down though because they couldn't maintain their website. But they were sharing our videos. When I say our, I'm talking about San Francisco Bay Area camp. When we'll go into the international bankers, going into the so-called Jew and how he really runs everything behind the scene. They would actually share those videos, and they would say, and I quote, "I know they're niggas, but they're telling the truth." So you got a lot of people who watch these videos. They watch our videos. They watch economic videos. They watch Gerald Salente. They watch Peter Schiff. They watch Rethinking a Dollar. What's the other guy name? Silver Report. Right? They watch what's that guy's name? David Icke. Or they're watching Lisa Haven, which your brother put me on her. So they're watching all these videos, and they say, "Man, we got to do something." And so, what is their course of actions? Go against the government. Go against these elected officials who are corrupt as hell. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. In the course of their actions shall stand in their power, meaning they're going to be able to do what their heart desires, and nobody is going to be able to stop them. So this society is on the verge of utter collapse. We see rampant homelessness. Wherever I go, there's homelessness. Now, Miami, it wasn't as pronounced as out here in California, but it's still a problem. You see, the Midwest, it looked like bombs already hit it out there. When you go to Detroit, when you go to Cleveland, you go to Seattle, where there's nothing but homeless people roaming around, drug addicts. San Francisco, Man, don't even get me started on there. So these people are going to get mobilized, and I saw that in Portland. They had these little encampments, and there was a bunch of homeless people there. Or you feed them, or you radicalize them, they ready to go. All right, so this is what we can expect. All right, for the rest of the month, and before this place is ultimately destroyed. So I'm gonna go ahead and end here through the Spirit. I pray that the lesson was edifying, exhorting, and comforting. And as always, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. The Wadi Habashim Yahshai, Kayaha Rakakwadash. The Holy Spirit resting upon me to do this lesson. Adonai Ratazah, I'm going to go ahead and get ready and hit these highways and hedges. And then I'll be back out Adonai Ratazah at 6 this evening. All right. Stay strong. Till next time. Shalom.